All right, we're joined now by a guy that we haven't had on this podcast in far too long. But it's probably because we share a podcast feed with him. So it's kind of like we're roommates. So, it's like you don't want to bring your roommate on too much, I guess. But you know him from 104.5 The Zone. You know him from A to Z Sports Primetime. You know him from just about everywhere. Like everywhere you turn your head, you're going to see this guy's face pop up. He is Buck Reising. Buck, how are you, dude?
It's a pleasure to be back on the award-winning Tighten Up podcast.
That's right.
Thank
That's
you.
right.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you for giving us our props because we deserve it.
If not award-winning, I don't know what award I can give you that you've not already been in contention for, but
right.
It's a pleasure to see you boys. It has been far too long. Unfortunately, I don't have all of the accolades that Luke Worsham typically brings to the podcast.
No one does. We wouldn't expect that from
him. He's Nashville's most handsome man.
Right. He's had a serious glow up since, and Jack and I, as we do, we like to take credit for it. Since he came on our podcast the very first time. Now all of a sudden he's like he's slowly morphing into this thirst trap, I guess.
Titans Media's Charlie Whitehurst.
Yeah. Right. Sans the hair. Next time he comes on, he's going to have a wide brim hat on. It's only a matter of time.
There's 0% chance that Luke Worsham would ever put on a wide brim hat, although I'm actively rooting for that aesthetic. Yeah, you guys are responsible for this, and that's why he's been knockoff PK hot take on my timeline lately. It seems like the attention is working for him. I'm very happy for Luke.
We are too. Hey, how happy are you with your Colts right now? We know you're a big Colts fan, potentially Andrew Luck
huge
clone.
Colts guy.
But are you thrilled with the Gardner Minshew rumors, or how do you feel about moving on from Carson Wentz?
I'm just delighted to see Marcus Mariota in a Colts uniform twice a year playing.
There it is.
AFC South. Come on, you know you two want it. Like as a Titans fan, how could you not be rooting for that to be the outcome? And I mean, the Colts are just in the worst possible situation of any of these teams because they let the best available option go. They traded him away in Carson Wentz, which is insane to think about, but they're not doing any better than that. That's why they're screwing around and calling the Texans yesterday to just see if there's an opportunity to get Deshaun Watson, or for nothing else to leak it to Adam Schefter so your fan base doesn't crucify you when they ask you why you didn't call about Deshaun Watson. So it's all downhill for that organization.
It's looking bad when they're like kicking themselves when the Steelers signed Mitch Trubisky. You're like, damn it, we could have had him.
Yeah. Jimmy G twice a year, boys. It's that or Mariota. And at this point, I don't know which sounds more disastrous or which one would tug more at your heartstrings.
Yeah. I feel like I would want, I want Mariota just because I want to see him succeed. I want to see him start again. I want to see him do well, but I don't want to see him twice a year in the same division. And because this is what's going to happen. The Colts signed Mariota. He just has this resurgence year, gets a couple of MVP votes even, and then beats the Titans twice. And then the Mariota stands that we know exist in the bowels of Titans fandom are going to jump out and they're going to say, told you so. This is what we've been talking about for the last 4 years.
Yeah, none of that's going to happen because Marcus Mariota is single-handedly responsible for the worst football game I've ever watched in my life. 16-0, 2019
Broncos
against Denver. That, of course, also know as the Ryan Tannehill game. So, no, I understand why you fear this. It's completely rational sports fan fear to see a former player go and join another hated organization and rise back to the top. But, with all due respect to Marcus, who I genuinely respect and enjoyed my time covering him, he is not at a stage in his football playing career where that is a possibility.
Yeah. So because he quarterbacked the worst game you've ever seen in your life, that's who he is to you forever. Like he could win a Super Bowl and you'll still see him as that. Did you not watch that game?
That game is seared in my memory. What are you talking about?
It was that game.
Shouldn't it be? That was an atrocity. I can't even articulate properly how bad that football game was to watch because that was the first season that I traveled, and my trip to Denver was nightmare fueled. I don't got to get into all the details here, but to go across the country to watch that game where the most interesting thing was a pigeon that kept flying onto the field, like buzzing around Ryan Tannehill in a way that the team photographer, Donald Page, had more photographs of the pigeon than he did of actual Titans players. By the end of the game, yeah, that's the way he's forever going to be associated with that football game to me.
That game, and then at home when I forget if it was Mariota or Tannehill, got sacked like 12 times in the rain. Those are my two least favorite.
Nope, that was Marcus too. That was
Marcus.
Baltimore.
Yeah,
21-0. I was a part of that game too.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was I was there in the rain, soaked, watching Mariota just get drove into the ground, snap after snap. But hey, while we're on the subject of quarterbacks, you were in Indy for the combine. I know there are a couple guys up there that the Titans had meetings with. I think Desmond Ritter, Carson Strong, and Sam Howell were three of those dudes. Did you get the impression that they may be, taking a quarterback, whether it's in the mid rounds, late rounds, whatever it is? I know they signed Logan Woodside to a 1-year deal, but they're not married to him by any means. What do you think the Titans are going to do at the quarterback position this offseason?
Yeah, they've tried to kill Logan Woodside a couple of times with a bunch of dudes that just
you can't kill him.
He is the quarterback nuclear Holocaust survivor. So at this point,
that's a reference that went right over Jack's head. But Buck, I don't know if you know this, but if you make a movie reference, Jack will not.
That's not true. He only references movies from the 80s,
true.
And I don't.
Jack earlier today tweeted out a scene from Titanic. Yeah, that is another movie that he has never seen from the Tighten Up podcast.
Say, that's on the fringe. That
Twitter
Titanic's
account
probably on the fringe for him. Yeah.
No, I haven't
check that
seen
out at the Tighten Up podcast official Twitter account and Instagram. I'm quite certain. Movie reference. Listen, Jack, don't feel bad. Like I work with a bunch of old people at a radio station where the audience is, 50s and 60s, older white male. So there's a bunch of movie references that I don't get. Mike Vrabel made fun of me at a press conference one time with a movie reference that I didn't understand, a Caddyshack, because I didn't know what he was talking about with a bowl of soup in my sweater. So don't let Austin shame
you. Got to give three chuckles and then look down. That's what I do to Austin.
That's exactly what he does.
Your head. That's how you get out of it.
He knows a joke or a good reference is being made. He just doesn't know what it is. So he'll give me which, to his credit, great podcast host, that he does laugh. He yes ands along with me, but then he just looks down and then changes the subject real quick because he doesn't get it.
Uncomfortable laughter is the best way to avoid showing your ass. Rob Manfred did it poorly at the press conference announcing that baseball would be canceling the first two series for every team, except I think he was just nervous and it was a bad camera angle. So everybody but Rob Manfred that one time, the slight chuckle and then looking down, that's a successful strategy. Good job out of you, Jack.
So back to the quarterbacks of the combine, which was the initial question. We got so far off the path, like it always happens on this podcast.
But they're open to it. They're open to it. Basically is the summary. I talked to a bunch of people, had John Robinson on the radio show. Quarterback's not off the table. It just really, I know this is a cop-out answer since the draft is at the end of April, but it really just depends on how the board falls and where they have these guys stacked. Obviously, I don't have access to their draft board. I know that they met, as you mentioned, with a couple of the quarterback prospects. Desmond Ritter is the one that makes sense most without being pro ready. Like that guy is Kenny Pickett. Teams look at Kenny Pickett as the easiest to drop into a week one hypothetical starting situation because he can function in a lot of what pro teams are going to ask you to do, whereas Malik Willis is coming from a super limited offense under your boy Jack Hugh Freeze that hasn't asked him to do a lot of things that pro quarterbacks do. So this is kind of the case with a lot of these guys. Cincinnati and Desmond Ritter is fascinating because obviously nobody's going to have a better understanding than Mike Vrabel of what the Cincinnati quarterback situation is, given that the best man in his wedding was Luke Fickell. So I don't know who that quarterback is. I don't know what round that makes the most sense. All I know is that there is depth to be found at both the tight end and wide receiver and interior offensive line positions outside of day one and basically day two because they don't have a second round draft pick. So I would be surprised to see them do anything around the quarterback position before day three.
Oh, dope.
I was gonna follow up with a tight end question.
This is awkward. All right, go.
Austin and I every week we talk about the tight end position, just because there's a new guy that seems to pop up every week. It was originally Gesicki from Omar Kelly down in Miami. Then
Yeah.
you had Njoku kind of, be floated around the Titans name. Gronkowski's the most recent one. Now, I know with Tom Brady coming back, that dream is likely dead if it was a dream in the first place. But do you see the Titans handling tight end, in free agency, or is that a mid-round draft pick, or do they reach in the first round? I know there isn't really a Kyle Pitts prospect this year, but how do you see that playing out?
First round for a tight end this year would be egregious. I'd see it's far more likely that they trade out of the first round at 26 because you're basically working with a high second round pick. So you might as well make your life a little easier and do it that way, which would be laugh out loud funny because I know our radio station tried to send me and 3HL to Vegas. I didn't want to go because I'm scared that they're going to trade out of the first round pick and just be out there for no reason. But 3HL is still going. They're going to risk it all and hope that John Robinson sticks.
Yeah,
at 26. The answer is both. Honestly, say what?
I was going to say
that's what you do in Vegas. You risk it all.
Yeah, and you can't whiff on a first round pick if you don't pick in the first round.
There.
Yeah,
I went with the risk it all pun. Nobody laughed. It's just kind of awkward. Now we're talking over each other.
Hey, hang on. Jack.
see, he's
the laugh, and you look down. There you go.
Yeah, which is tremendous on a primarily audio medium. So we're really doing the audience a service
or
now.
You can now watch this interview with Buck on a YouTube channel, A to Z Sports YouTube. So how about that?
Make sure you subscribe where you can get all of our live stream content 7 days a week, plus all the podcasts. Who knows how to plug? Here's the deal with the tight end situation. Like, there are going to be guys in the third round that can help you, but instant impact is what they require. They're keeping familiarity in Jeff Swaim. I know the $3.5 and change million that he got makes a lot of people cringe, given that most of it's guaranteed, but that's basically the market for what tight end number 3 looks like right now. You're talking about Evan Ingram getting $9 million. You're talking about Zach Ertz, who I thought would have made a lot of sense for them here had he made it to the open market, is in his 30s, and he's 31, making north of $8 million. Like, it's going to exceed their price range because what the Titans did. And I think a lot of people are aware of this now, but just in case people need a reminder, like, they gave the tight end second contract to Derek. Like, teams don't pay running back second contract money. So that allocation of how they plan out, their salary cap in increments of 3 or 4 years, that went to Derrick Henry. So now you have to try and piece this thing back together. I'd expect another veteran free agent ad and a draft pick as well to kind of supplement this group. But at this point, the sex appeal's not there because I looked at the top 6 tight ends basically, and none of them are available except for Gronk. And there's 0% chance that Rob Gronkowski ends up in Tennessee or even still playing football if Tom Brady is down back in Tampa Bay for season number 23.
What are some reasonable expectations in free agency for Titans fans? Because obviously, Titans fans are going to be like, if we don't walk away with like Jarvis Landry or Juju Smith-Schuster or some big name, Titans fans are going to be upset. But I feel like they also already have knocked out a lot of key important things on their to-do list. Ben Jones, Harold Landry, they're bringing back some key pieces, but unless you get that new name, that new flashy name, I feel like just the typical fan is going to be, oh, well, they didn't do anything in free agency this year. It's kind of a letdown. Do you see anything like that happening? Like, what should Titans fans be expecting out of this free agency period?
Practicality. I mean, I hate to kind of leave them with that, but I mean, if you looked at their offseason on face value, regardless of what stage you were in, and said, well, you paid a 25-year-old, going to be 26-year-old edge rusher, top of the market value to keep him together with the thing that you do best, which is kick the shit out of quarterbacks. You kept your veteran center who's still functioning at a high level, still hugely available, which is more than you can say about the rest of the roster, and a quarterback who's already facing some heat makes him a hell of a lot more comfortable. You added depth on the offensive line, and you started to build back your depth at the tight end position. Most people would probably look at that and say, yeah, okay, that makes sense for what it is that they need. But, we get attracted by sexy, famous names, and Aaron Rodgers isn't coming to the Titans, and now the entire offseason is a complete and total waste of time, when in reality, that's just not the case. Like, how many people had Jamarco Jones on their Titans free agent draft board, right? Like, those are the kind of, and I'm not saying that this completely removes them from the market of mid-tier starting level dudes, but what we're seeing right now is the Jags have ruined the market for everybody at not just one position, but like a variety of positions with the contracts that they're handing out. They spent over $150 million on their offense, and they may win 6 games next year, and that be a considerable improvement. So as the market inflates, you have to legitimately ask yourself, and this is what they're talking about internally, is there a game changer out there worth the money that exceeds what we have on our roster? And if the answer is no, which in all likelihood it is at this stage in free agency, where very rarely do the top guys actually hit the market, be it because of tags or extensions or otherwise, then you have to find ways to win within the margins, even if you are in a world where the salary cap isn't really that hard of a cap with all the contract loopholes that we discovered last year when it took a $15.7 million haircut and teams were having to figure out how to do shit like voidable years on the fly. So practicality is what I would expect out of this free agency period. And I mean, I would still continue to look at positions like wide receiver and tight end as where they will go to address. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be pissed at them if they brought back Marcus Johnson and Chester Rogers.
Oh, you almost said Mariota there. What if you said Mario? No. Oh man, if that would have been a
Mariota? No,
that would have been a twist. My body
wouldn't physically allow me to say Marcus Mariota at this stage in my career without and this is a shame because I had a great relationship with Marcus. I had a really, really good interaction with him at the end of his career. Now every time I say his name, I just want to punch myself in the throat because of what I associate with him in my early career covering this football team. But yeah, practicality is the word.
CEO Glenn Word has made it his mission to not just enhance sleep, but enhance lives. Glenn Word was involved in a very serious car accident many years ago and was looking down the barrel of multiple surgeries. But before going under the knife, Glenn and his family sought out preventative measures to try and correct his body through different sleep technologies and posture improvements. Over the course of time, Glenn's body self-corrected. He managed to avoid any and all of those procedures, I should say, which is what makes Relax the Back a passion project of his. The Relax the Back team sets out every day to help people in the Nashville area to work better, live better, and feel better every single day. And we live in this society where it's screens. You're in front of a screen no matter what you're doing. Maybe you're hunched over like me when you type on your computer to write stories about the Titans or the Grizzlies, or maybe even gambling sometimes. Maybe you're just hunched over writing all day on a notepad, or you spend all of your time every single day just in a bad posture position. Well, they've got a variety of chairs at Relax the Back that can combat neck and back pain for those of us who are sitting all day at work, along with Technogel and Tempur-Pedic pillows and mattresses for when you get off work and you're ready to lay your head down and go to sleep every night. The Relax the Back team will make sure you're waking up and feeling great every day. Go check them out in Nashville at 2020 Glen Echo Road, right across from the Green Hills Regal Movie Theater. It's over in that shopping center. They've got Mandu over there, who's a partner with A to Z as well. They've got a bunch of different stuff over there, but Relax the Back to where you should go if you're ready to start feeling better today. I promise you. I use the Technogel pillow. It's awesome, and it stays cool every single night. Totally worth it. Go check them out, and when you go check them out, make sure to tell them that A to Z Sports sent you.
So I feel like the Titans have kind of been playing in this free agency with one hand, maybe even two hands tied behind their back with where they're at with the cap. And it's been tough. Like if you don't have any money to spend, it's hard to spend money. And they've freed up some cap by cutting some guys, Norris Jenkins being one today. As you listened to this yesterday, sorry, not to peel back the curtain too much. So I'm wondering, and you see teams like Green Bay, where it feels like with every move that they've made this offseason, it's been to clear up cap space. Even with re-signing Aaron Rodgers, they somehow got more cap space out of the whole deal. I don't know how. Like they're freaking it feels like Marty Bird working the books up there somehow. Are the Titans, are there any discussions about the Titans maybe doing something similar, maybe getting Derrick Henry or Tannehill to restructure certain ways, or to move money away to next year or something, just to make it more affordable to bring in big name guys?
Not those two specifically, because you can't restructure Tannehill again unless you want to marry yourself to him for another season at a potentially bigger cap hit, which is just not feasible at this point. Derek, I don't think is an option either. unless they are planning on keeping him around for the life of that deal, which, may sound like blasphemy right now, but we don't know, right? We
Right,
don't know
right.
how he's going to respond to 6 giant pieces of metal in his foot. And at the age of 29, by the time next season rolls around, I think that you could look at players whose dead cap hit is almost non-existent at this point. For example, somebody who Titans fans very much wanted to cut in Taylor Lewan, who can move some money around, which would keep him tied to them for maybe longer than they would like to be tied to Taylor Lewan, but does bring down what's already a pretty reasonable cap hit for a starting left tackle. In the NFL, it can still give you some maneuverability. They've already done it with Brett Kern, who there was in no danger of being cut, even though I had some conversations with people who brought his name up as a cut. People would lose their minds here.
Never cut
happen. And frankly, I'm surprised there's not riots in the street for asking him to take a pay cut, Jack.
No.
I don't know how this
is
to be.
Those people are monsters. That's what they are. They're Colts fans in two-tone blue face paint. That's what they are, infiltrating us.
Another name.
Yeah, the only thing that I'll tell you, and maybe this is where you're going to go, Jack, is they can do stuff financially with Julio Jones, either to get him off the team or to move money around again. But remember, they did restructure Julio Jones's deal last year to make a couple of other things possible to give themselves some more flexibility. And that money wouldn't come into effect, obviously, pre-June 1st. You wouldn't have that savings on your salary cap until after June 1st, even if you designate him as a pre-June 1st cut.
So in your mind, would that make sense to even cut him, or do you play the season out with him, see what you can get out of him, and then maybe move on down the road?
I keep him. I really would. I know that it's frustrating for people, and they're inclined to keep him too, right? Like, just talking to people in the organization, like, they don't want to admit after a year that Julio Jones is a sunk cost. When you've got John Robinson on Good Morning Football talking about the historic Pinewood Cafe or kitchen where they went to have a celebratory meal after a day voting on Percy Priest, which is the most Tennessee shit I've ever heard in my entire life. But so, like, yeah, they don't want to. If they cut him pre-June 1st, it'd be less than $1 million in savings. If they cut him post-June 1st, you'd have like $4 million. I don't know that $4 million is going to make or break your salary cap this year. I think that Julio Jones, especially given that those other two guys that we talked about earlier, Marcus Johnson and Chester Rogers, are unrestricted free agents, and AJ's really all you have left with Nick Westbrook-Akina. Like, there will be draft picks, but I mean, I think it's worth gambling on Julio another year.
Another guy I've got questions about, and I think a lot of Titans fans do after what Vrabel said about him recently, Dylan Radins. Vrabel said he's not ready to be a starter right now. Now he's got the whole offseason, and I understand his situation coming out of North Dakota State was not a normal one. And, he took last year probably to grow a little bit, figure out how the NFL really operates. Do you see him fitting in next year on that offensive line, whether it's left guard, right tackle, wherever it may be?
It's left guard. He's a naturally left side player. Like, the whole idea that they're just going to flip flop him his rookie year after he missed a whole season of football was asinine to me from the start, because he played exclusively left tackle in college. So you're asking him, a player who has that kind of, weird pandemic season on his resume, to not just come from FCS football to the league, but also completely switch sides, which may sound not important to people who haven't played offensive line. I don't claim to be an offensive line expert. All I know is it's really fucking hard when you talk to people about it when it comes to footwork and hand technique and all these different things. So with Radins, I don't see it. I don't see it unthinkable that they would try him. I mean, we're far away from OTAs and training camp and stuff like that, but I think they'd like to see him at right tackle with another kind of season of or off season of work. But left guard makes so much more sense for a player like that. And like it to a much lesser degree, it's like when Gardner Minshew and Trevor Lawrence were splitting reps in training camp under Urban Meyer, and everybody's looking at Urban Meyer like, what the hell is wrong with you? You're going to start Trevor Lawrence. Why the hell are you even wasting time with this Gardner Minshew thing? I get it. You want to find out how many different things he can do for you, but with as many holes as they have on that offensive line, and Nate Davis not being all that great last year, like you need comfort in front of that quarterback who was just getting bruised and battered through the first half of that season.
Last one for me. Indiana barely made it into the big dance.
Jack, no.
Yeah, we've got to
No.
talk about it. We've got to talk about it because I mean the Titans have some Indiana representation as well. I mean
they will have
Nick
lost
Westbrook
by the
Akine.
time people. They will have lost by the time people hear this podcast. They're going to lose to Wyoming tonight, and I'm going to be happier for Jack. I don't need this in my life. I don't.
Oh man, you got to have some optimism. They made a run in the Big Ten. They had a shot at beating Iowa too, and I mean it didn't work out. But Trace Jackson Davis, they've got some guys.
Yeah, Indiana is a college basketball blue blood.
I shouldn't have to be talking you into picking Indiana, but here we
college
are.
basketball blue blood that hasn't won since 1988. But they're a blue blood.
What is this blue blood shit? They hadn't made the Big Ten tournament title game since 2003, and they didn't make it this year.
Yeah,
but they never won the Big Ten tournament, and they're a blue blood allegedly in college basketball without a title since '87. So, like, don't talk to me about Indiana.
Right,
yeah, but
I really do.
Yeah, but have you seen their striped warm-up pants?
The candy stripes are so cool.
Tennessee stole them. So now I have to live it twice as much because I watch as much Tennessee basketball because of the radio show as I do damn Indiana at this point. No, if they don't lose to Wyoming tonight, they'll lose to St. Mary's, and this can be out of my life because Indiana basketball is a 4-month headache for me. It's the only thing that I still care about as a sports fan, and all they do is make me sad. So why do I want to keep doing this, Jack?
I can hear the pain in your voice, and I get it. But Vandy tips off in the NIT tonight, so I can't relate. You know, we've got the skies are clearing up for Vandy basketball. But okay, bud. You mentioned you watch the Vols a lot. Do you think they can actually make it past the second round this go around? Barnes really struggles to do well with talented teams, but they're kind of on a little run. They've got some mojo. What do you think?
Do you think they could beat Longwood?
I do think they can beat Longwood.
Like beat them. You know, like how much would you beat Longwood by?
Well, you know,
do you beat?
Depends on.
Have you beaten Longwood?
Do you take pleasure in beating Longwood?
Today? No, today I haven't beat Longwood. I'm trying to find a way to play this into the joke. I'm doing it for.
But when you beat Longwood until the finish, right?
Oh yes, you have to finish against Longwood.
Yeah,
otherwise, you will be in, and then there will be frustrations and just general discontent. So yes, in order to be a blue blood, you have to ensure that you beat Longwood. I can't do much better than that. I'm sorry, boys. Tennessee. I mean, what's the reason that they can't make a Sweet 16 other than Rick Barnes? Like, I keep looking for reason. We do this all the time in sports, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody. And I'm trying to be less pessimistic in my old age. But like, what other than Rick Barnes is keeping them from achieving? Because honestly, of all the teams that I saw play conference tournament basketball, even though it didn't matter to the selection committee, apparently, like, Tennessee looked pretty damn good. And that was after consistently playing day after day after day in the best conference in college basketball. And yeah, there was some sloppy play in the first half that let a dead A&M team hang around. But like, I really think they've got potential, especially if they can get Santiago Vescovi playing that way throughout the day. I mean, and there doesn't seem to be a tougher and better physically conditioned player in the sport than him right now. They may get out athleted at some point. I don't rule that out at all, but like, they're a really, really strong unit as a team.
Well, if they don't make it to the Sweet 16, be prepared to take like an influx of phone calls of people blaming the seeding of the NCAA tournament as to why
that's right. Well, that's I mean, I work with a Tennessee alumni, my radio producer Lucas, and he is incessant about this. In fact, he's everything that I hate about sports. So for every I'm married to one. You know, producer Reed, it's his birthday, by the way, today on the primetime show. So happy birthday, Reed. But he's a much easier person to tolerate, which is crazy because he's an Alabama fan. And Lucas, who I'm basically married to, is just an incessant suffering in my life. He's all of Vol Twitter in a physical person, and that drives me crazy.
Yeah. Buck, when are we getting another 615 sessions?
Friday. We will have Joe Rexrode and Teron Davenport. We will talk about the free agent moves thus far, and surely it will be completely irrelevant by Saturday morning because that's how these things work. You guys know this.
Well, good, because we've got, we obviously share the podcast feed, and we're getting good. We're getting great ratings. I don't know if you've checked out the ratings recently. Just great, like almost all 5 stars.
Great ratings for us. I mean,
no, I was about to say, I don't think I'm getting many great ratings. I think I'm getting like half stars.
Yeah,
the other
you
4.5
are. Right. Yes. Well, and that was
another podcast that shall be unnamed.
Yeah, there's that's it's kind of like good news, bad news. Good news is we're getting 5 stars. Bad news is you're only getting 0.5 of those. Like this guy says 4.5 stars for Tup, 0.5 stars for Buck. This one says 4.5 stars for Tup, 0.4 for Buck, and 0.1 for Big Orange Pod.
Charlie and Zach are really good. They're the only people that can get me to listen to 35 straight minutes on wide receiver coach talk the way that they did. So,
this one says, I love the Tighten Up Pod. The guys are hilarious and witty, bring pop culture and sports together in hilarious fashion. The Tighten Up podcast is the only reason I'm still subscribed to this feed. Oh my gosh. Sorry. I didn't mean to read this one. Buck Reising is a star, but the Tighten Up idiots are 5 stars. So that one, I don't know how they did it, but they gave us 6 stars.
That feels like a super backhanded compliment. But you know what? Honestly, at this point, boys, I'm talking so much that people can't possibly care anymore about what I have to say. And yet, if there's still any kind of reaction that I get out of it whatsoever, like good or bad, I just take it as a win for the day, because at some point, somebody's going to stop paying me to speak into microphones, but not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, right.
Not
right.
yet,
Well,
yeah.
that's probably why Jack and I's episodes have been running so long over the last few months, is because this is the only chance we get to talk. Like I want to talk Titans with my wife. She doesn't want to listen to it. Jack wants to talk Titans with his girlfriend, but she doesn't want to listen to it.
Care.
No.
So all Jack and I have are each other to listen. And, we're grateful that anyone listens, but
been having to watch Vanderpump
and people
Rules.
do, by the way. It's been a very, very successful run over it's almost 2 years, right? With the top.
We are coming up on our anniversary. Yeah.
No, we're past it.
Is it might actually, no, because we started free agents when free agency opened 2 years ago. Yeah.
I got the Twitter notification that our account has been up for over 2 years the other day. I should have texted you. I don't know. I was going to do
Happy anniversary, babe.
Yeah, you too. You give me a
I'm
gift?
glad that I could be here for this. I'm very happy that I could be a part of this.
Guys, give him a follow on Twitter at Buck Reising. Check out his show every weekday afternoon, 104.5 The Zone, the Buck Reising Show. And check out A to Z Sports Primetime. Do it. Hit up the YouTube page. Go ahead and subscribe to that YouTube page. You can watch this interview on there, where it looks like Buck is meeting us outside in front of his house for an episode of MTV Cribs, which I was kind of hoping for during the interview, because I was really hoping to see what was in the refrigerator, which is a staple on MTV Cribs. Probably a reference that goes over Jack's head as well.
But there's a lot
of spotted cow. I had a
How'd you get spotted cow down in Nashville?
Well, it'll surprise no one to know, or at least it will surprise Jack to know, that I have people who I work with on the shady side of things to get illicit materials. But I actually, one of the guys who does balls analysis, Austin, I'm blanking on his name. Anyway, he brought me a bunch of spotted cow when the Vols played Purdue here this year. So it's really just beer, because everything else I Uber Eats.
I feel like you're a big kombucha guy, though.
Is there spotted cow in Indiana?
No, I think it's exclusively a Wisconsin joint. Yeah. And no kombucha for me, although I'm a big fan of the acai bowls, given that I'm getting kind of fat nowadays and I need to, do a little better to satisfy my sweet tooth. Those are a quick fix in a big spot.
I'll take your word for that. I don't think I've ever had one.
I love a good acai bowl, baby.
Now
you're speaking my language. All right, Buck. Anything else we can plug for you? Anything else that's going on? 615 session this Friday, guys. Be looking for it on this feed. So go ahead and subscribe to this feed, and of course, give us a rating and review. 4.5 stars to us, 0.5 stars to Buck. Buck, is there anything else we can plug for you?
Oh God, no. I get plenty of plugs, and I do my own plugging. You guys have been more than gracious with plugs.
No, you've been more than gracious to join us today. We appreciate it. I know it's a busy time of year for you, and we appreciate it, and hope we weren't keeping you from anything.
Nothing that wasn't going to happen, regardless of how busy I was today. Nothing breaks routine, but routine is important.
Routine is
Let me
everything.
tell you.
Routine is
But
everything.
Routine is truly everything. And, if this just happens to be the second part of my daily routine, then, I haven't missed out completely.
Hey, if you ever run out of anything to say this week, maybe run this one by your audience on 104.5. In Rick Barnes' old age,
Oh my
does he have
gosh.
what it takes to get up for Longwood and really finish with a bang? There's a line for your radio show. I'll take no money, no credit, absolutely no credit. Don't credit me for that.
Yeah,
Yours. That's
don't
yours.
credit
Now
me.
you have
Well,
to take it.
just in case anybody missed all of that throughout the course of the last 30 minutes, we're doing a lot of dick jokes today. That's what Jack.
Penises.
Well, this is the only Titans podcast you can go to for decent dick jokes, and we take that very
Right.
seriously.
Yeah,
There's
right.
an audience for that.
True, and I thought that was going to die after Dick LeBeau left. So what are you going to do?
No, it's the reason we're the Tighten Up podcast, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, give it a couple of years. Everybody has those moments.
All right. Thanks, Buck.
Yeah, boys.